All right, let's warm up. We're gonna start with ankle circles, maybe 5 each way, checking in with the ankles, just seeing what the body's doing right now. Knees. You can do 10 each way, you can do 20 each way. I'm just showing you the sequence here, putting a circle in each of the joints, warming up. Hips, big circle. Swing the arms. Feet together, arms out, scapula retract, shoulder blades together. Hands down, up, side bend. Deep breath. Deep breath, arch back. Hang down, feet shoulder width apart. Roll up, big inhale. That's the warm up. Now, with regards to breathing, I started talking about taking deep breaths during the warm up. What we need to do is establish a cyclical breathing that harmonizes with our movement. We want to use our breath to guide us in moving, as opposed to having our breath following our moving. Meaning, if I'm running, and I'm running haphazardly, and I start to breathe, mouth breathe, out of control, I want to try to regulate my physicalness, my physicality, by being able to regulate my breath. The breath is the contact point between the atmosphere and my body. So we're going to use a technique called bracing the neutral spine and using our breath to create that stable, neutral spine position that we'll use in many, many, many of our other lifting and other athletic activities. So you're going to breathe into your belly first off. Big deep breath. Through the nose. Breathe out. You can breathe out through the mouth if you like, but I'm going to try to keep everything through the nose. Just don't shoot snots on anybody. So big belly breath. Breathe out. Stomach tight. Breathe in. Into that tight stomach. Breathe into that tight stomach. Breathe out. Squeeze your butt. Hold your butt tight and your stomach tight. So now we're breathing in. Tight stomach, tight butt. Last, we're going to set the shoulder blades. We're going to take your fingers, interlace them across the chest, pull the elbows down. So we're squeezing the shoulder blades down and back. Butt tight, stomach tight. Again, deep breath. As you can see, I might have grown about an inch, and now I feel like I've got my superhero posture on. We're going to take that into everything else that we do. Whether I'm squatting, or I'm doing a push-up, I'm going to want to be able to take a deep breath, not have any restrictions in that flow of breath, and be able to execute my movements with the breath as an aid, as opposed to a passive, lagging indicator that I'm out of breath or not doing correctly. Is the squat sit. Get your feet about shoulder width apart, toes out slightly. The less degrees out, the better. We're at 30 degrees out, that's the maximum. I don't want you to go more than that. If you can keep them at 0 degrees, all the better. Squat down. Initially, I like to start with my elbows on my knees just because I'm lining up my ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, and elbows, kind of all into one box. And then once I start to relax a little bit, I start pushing my knees out with my elbows, getting a little bit more movement through my hips. I might work back and forth, put more weight on each individual ankle. I press out with my elbows, press down, stretch my wrists, so I'm kind of getting a 2-for-1 wrist stretch with the knees out. And that's the squat sit. You want to hang out here for about 10 minutes. When you come out of it, put your hands down and press your butt up, and then roll up slowly. Squat sit. Active and passive hang, which is great for opening up your shoulders. You're going to find something, a structure that you can hang off of that's high enough up that you can get your feet off the ground without them touching, with your legs straight. Right now, my shoulder blades are active and they are depressed slightly. This would be elevating them. I want to elevate my shoulder blades and allow my shoulders to relax. This is the passive hang. So in the passive hang, my head is going to drop down into my shoulders. My ears are covered by my deltoids, almost so that I can't hear or the sound is muffled. And then when I activate, I depress my shoulder blades, pulling them down as if I was initiating a pull-up, keeping my butt tight, my feet straight, my whole body straight. And again, I go into the passive hang and into the active hang. And in the passive position, I'm really stretching out all the musculature of my shoulder. That's the hang. Let me show you the atomic push-up. It's great for opening up the shoulders, getting some flexibility in the back of the legs, also a little core strength and a little arm strength. So you're gonna go down onto your chest, into the prone position. Prone is body facing the floor. Supine would be body facing the ceiling. Hands under your armpits. Grip the floor with your toes in preparation for coming up into a plank. You're gonna straighten your arms, pressing your shoulder blades to keep your shoulders away from your ears. I'm in what's called an upward facing dog position. I don't want my shoulders up or forward, I want them back and down. I'm then going to lift my hips up into a plank position, pressing my hips up and my head through my arms. I try to get my heels down onto the ground. Now this is the downward dog position. Rolling forward, I'm going to come back into a plank, arms straight, drop the hips, shoulder blades back and down to the ground. And repeat. In a more advanced way to do it would be to add the breath, where you're breathing in on the way up, out on the way into the downward facing dog, breathing in again as you go to the upward facing dog, and then out as you go back down. So it's 2 breaths per rep. The first exercise I want to show somebody that said that they had never worked out in their life, and they felt that they were concerned that they couldn't bend their knees or use their body in any way. So this would be for somebody who's, your aging grandparent or mother and father. Say, this is your access point to fitness. If you were willing to work up to doing 100 of these a day, I think you could do anything. And it's not that hard. 100 is not that hard. So, the squat rope. Find a structure that's strong enough to support your body weight. It could be the back of the park bench. It could be a railing on your porch or in your house. You want to try to find something where your elbows can be 90 degrees. If it's lower, that's okay. I'll show you both options. Start with your elbows 90 degrees, arms giving a strong grip, hands grabbing the structure. Drop your hips back. Bend your knees, keep your knees out like we're at the bottom of that squat sit. You then initiate the return by pushing your hips back and pulling at the same time. Again, dropping down, standing back up. You don't want to try to drop down by bending your knees first. You want to initiate by hips back, folding at the waist and folding at the knees, arms straight at the bottom. Again, when I go to come up, I don't want to come forward and try to grind my way up. I push my hips back and pull myself up at the same time. That's the squat row. The Jefferson curl. We want to be able to flex the spine and release all of the tension in between each of the vertebrae. Meaning, I want you to be able to articulate every one of the vertebrae in the spine as if it's its own independent joint, which it is. Functionally, we want the spine to usually operate as one rigid piece, but by putting so much effort into making the spine stiff, we also want to balance that by being able to let the spine be loose and relaxed. And that's what the Jefferson curl helps us to do in a spinal flexion position. You're going to get yourself a moderately sized kettlebell. When you first try this, you don't need to use any weight. And you work up to a weight that is moderate or challenging for you. So you can start with nothing. For me, I'm going to use this 16 kilo kettlebell. And I could go up probably a lot heavier, but for the purposes of what we're doing here, this is plenty. First, I'm just going to deadlift it and pick it up. Next, I'm going to melt like a candle in that I'm going to let my head come down first, then my neck, each vertebra at a time, just sliding forward slowly, dripping, melting over, bending at the ribs, the middle back, the lower back. My head and neck stay loose. I keep going down
further and further, letting the weight take me down, keeping my legs straight. An athletic bend in the knees, but 90 to 95% straight in the legs. Big stretch, breathing deep. Going that extra few millimeters at the bottom. Then deep inhale and start going the other direction. Keeping your chin tucked, stacking as we go, one vertebra at a time, all the way back up. Throw your shoulder blades back, and that's the Jefferson curl. And you don't need to do a ton of those. Just a couple go a long way.
The sun salute. You're going to step out into a long lunge. You may need to adjust your back foot in order to get into the appropriate length of stance. The length of the stance will be determined by your flexibility. So if you're very inflexible, you may have to shorten up the stance. I want you to be able to get into a very long stance, keeping in mind I'm not on a tightrope. My feet are not side by side. I'm actually stepping as if there were space between my feet, and I'm maintaining that space so that I'm stable left to right. I get my foot as far back as I can get it, stomach tight. I'm going to reach up and try to fold backwards. Engaging all through my abs, through the front of my hip. I'm pulling everything up out of my hip to stretch my hip flexors and my abdominal muscles. Reaching back, breathing, coming up. We could put in an atomic push-up variation on this, but for the purposes of this video, I just want you to get the big hip stretch out of this. This is to open up the front of the hip primarily. Nice and deep, few deep breaths on each side. That's the sun salute. The band pull apart, or the band scapular retraction. You're going to grab yourself a monster band or any type of athletic band that's going to give you some resistance. You don't need a ton. As a matter of fact, you need to be able to overcome it pretty easily so that we can squeeze our shoulder blades together in the back. As you can see, I'm pulling my shoulder blades together. My hands are slightly lower than my shoulders. So we don't need to be up like this. Besides, if you go too high, you're going to know you're in the wrong place because you hit yourself in the face with the band. We want the band to come right across the chest. And the exercise really starts once the band touches the chest, and we're pulling the arms back even further past the center line of the body. If you want to make it harder, just simply grip up on the band. Get your butt tight, stomach tight. That's the band pull apart. Cossack squat. Operating out of the squat sit, which you should be already plenty familiar with because you're going to do this for 10 minutes every day, you start to become more familiar and comfortable down in this bottom position. Your ankle flexibility is going to improve to the point where we can put a lot more weight on one ankle, opening it up even further. Now we're going to kick the other leg out, and we're able to get this foot that I'm standing on flat on the ground, big fold at the ankle, maximum bend at the knee, maximum bend at the hip. This other foot is out here, getting now a stretch of the inside of my hip. So it's like a more advanced version of the squat sit. Then from here, I'm going to use my hands to help me get to the other side. And I'm in the same position on the other side. Again, becoming more comfortable with it. Eventually then, being able to use the hands less and less until I'm able to kind of effortlessly move back and forth in this position. That's the Cossack squat. The pull-up is one of our defining strength training movements. Obviously, the true measurements of strength get into lifting heavier weights, squats, deadlifts, etc. But the pull-up is really where we measure our upper body strength relative to our body mass. You know, you might be able to bench press a ton, you may be able to lift a ton of weight, but if you're a big guy, you're gonna have a tough time doing pull-ups. So we really start to define our strength by how well we can do a pull-up. You're gonna reach up, grab the bar. Ideally, your feet are off the ground to start. We relax the shoulder blades, then we go into that engaged, non-passive, active hang. From there, we're bending and pulling, legs stay straight, chin over the bar, all the way back down. I did that one pretty slow. You obviously will be able to do that faster, but we do want to keep the legs straight. Butt tight, stomach tight. Pull. Try to get your chest all the way up to the bar. That's the pull-up. The definitive strength training exercise to show that your body is really starting to integrate itself for the lower body is the pistol squat. The pistol is asking so much of us from regards to a ankle flexibility, knee flexion, and hip flexion perspective that it defines our ability to put all the pieces together. Line up, feet hip width apart, toes straight ahead, balance on the one foot. I like to, as I press my hips back, counterbalance with my hands. That might be because I'm weak, I don't know. But I come down into the bottom of the pistol. I'm here, leg is straight. Sometimes I point the toe, sometimes I flex the toe. For today, it feels like I want to flex it. I might even go into a little prayer posture to pray that I can make it back up. And then go back up in reverse. Woo, we do the other side. So, standing on one leg, hips go back, hands go forward to counterbalance, all the way down. Check out that toe, what it likes to do. Pray to get back up, and back up. I cheated a little bit there, I threw my hands, but these are tough. They're hard to do. And you want to see if you can start banging them out. Maybe see if you can do 3 on each side, 5 on each side. If you can do 10 pistols on each side, then I'll come and take your seminar.